I stopped. So I was talking about values, right? And I said your values are the principles by which you live. They are principles that you prioritize. They are things that you are not willing to compromise on, right? So not we don't pay attention to our partner's values. And I gave example of some values. I said for some people is respect, for some people is integrity, for some people is trustworthiness. These are values that people have, right? And I said some people they are willing to compromise their values. Why for some people they are not willing to compromise their values. Now, if you ask the average youth, and I said this is where I'm going to share my personal experience, about a mistake I made in a past relationship, not paying attention to your partner's values. Now, if you ask the average young person, oh, what are the qualities that you want in a partner? They're going to tell you, amongst all other things, they want a God fearing partner. God fearing partner, right? And when we say God fearing, is not it's not about somebody who goes to church. It's not just about going to church. Somebody who fears God is someone who is presented with a very cheap opportunity to do the wrong thing and get results and somehow avoid consequences. For instance, Joseph in the Bible, if he had slept with Potiphar's wife, nobody would have known because, like the Bible said, that she had sent everyone away. So it was just Joseph and herself. If he had done that thing, nobody would have, it would just have been between the both of them. But then Joseph said, how can I sin against God? And how can I betray the trust that your husband has entrusted in me to and given me and put me in charge of your whole house? He said, I cannot do this great wickedness against God. Right? So when we say somebody is God fearing, see, your values are tested. It's not, when you pass by a group of people, you greet good morning, they say, this girl is respectful, is good. This girl is they give you all the accolades, is good. But most of the times, your values are tested in uncomfortable and unpleasant situations. That's where your values are really, really tested, right? So a lot of us we say, oh, we want a God-fearing partner. But what do we talk about, or what do we mean when we say a God-fearing partner? Now, this is where I will share my experience. I remember when I was in that past relationship, and being that sometimes I'll go to his place, I'll just visit him. He will also visit me at my place, like that. Of course, nothing was going on, right? But then one day, I just decided to ask a question. And that's why I told you that pay attention. I told you that sometimes bring up questions, bring up scenarios where this person can contribute, and then you can listen to what they are saying. He says it is out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth. You can't know what a person is thinking in their mind, but you can hear, you can to an extent have a picture of what their mind is like by listening to what they say. So one day I decided to ask him a question. I said, look, this one that we're in a relationship, God forbid that, something goes wrong and then we do what we're not supposed to do and I get pregnant. I was painting a scenario because, of course, it can happen. It can. Nobody is above mistakes. It can happen. And then I said, okay, so what if, somehow I get pregnant? What are we going to do? What are we going to do about it? I was painting a scenario. Now, do you know what this guy said? Oh, if you want to hear what he said, right? I want to hear. I bet let me not put you through all that. I'm just catching clues because I said I was going to tell you. So whether you put it or not in the comments, I'll tell you. Now, do you know what he said? He said, eh, you have the baby now. After all, there are even some families that insist that the woman that their son wants to get married to should first get pregnant for their son before he marries her. So if you get pregnant, you give birth to the child. Eh? When I heard it, it was giving getting pregnant out of wedlock is not a big deal. It was giving, it's not that deep. It was given, you will not be the first that it will happen to, you will not be the last. It was given, it's not a new thing that's been happening. So he said it so nonchalantly, so cold. There was no iota of her, no remorse, no shock, no surprise, nothing. He just said it very calmly as if it's not a big deal. Whereas for somebody like me, I've said that's not the kind of life I want to live. You know, um, around me, the environment, I grew up in Warri. And in that space, I was born in Lagos, and then when we moved from Lagos to Warri, I saw that the terrain was very different. I'm not condemning Warri, but I'm saying that there are just some certain things that are prevalent in certain locations. So when I came to Warri, I saw that it was very common to see young girls getting pregnant out of wedlock. They just go live with a cohabitation was very common. You just see a young girl, a young guy, they are not married, but they are living together. Before you know what, the girl is pregnant, or she gets pregnant, and then that's when she starts to stay with the guy, right? And before you know what, she'll give birth to one, two, three children. They are now a family. No proper marriage done. So those are the kinds of settings that we're playing out. I said, no, this is definitely, this is not how I want to live. So that was one of my values, not to engage in sex before marriage, not to be pregnant before marriage. Those kinds of things were playing out in my family, extended family, playing out in my environment, be like that. And then there was somebody that I was in a relationship with, and I just throw talk come outside, say, what if in the course of this relationship a mistake happens, I get pregnant, what are we going to do? He said, you give birth to the baby. It was not a big deal. And that one will be amebo. I say amebo for another day. Because that relationship did not work out in the end. And then after I ended that relationship, there were now things I found out about this person, this seemingly nice, good person that I thought I was in a relationship with. But then this is the part where I want to just talk about in this conversation. The person said, they were basically just saying it's not that deep. You get pregnant out of wedlock, it's not that deep. What am I trying to say? A mistake that we make in relationships is that we do not pay attention to the values, where our partners place their values. We don't pay attention to that. I mentioned something earlier, how they solve their problems. You see that person's mind now, you see their mindset. So if I get pregnant, their mindset is, you give birth to the baby. Or even the one is saying you give birth to the baby. It can happen that when that thing happens, because sometimes I've told somebody before, I said most times when they say, if you were the person in these shoes, what will you do? Most of the times, the thing that you say you will do, as you are seated now, you are relaxed, fun is by this. When you really find yourself in that situation, you are on a hot seat. It's not the way you said you will do it. That's not how you. It's possible that that's not how you will do it, though, right? But then I'm just trying to say, bring up certain scenarios and display it to this person and watch their reaction. We don't pay attention to where our partners place their values. We don't pay attention to how they solve their problems. They fall into some kind of mess. What is their reaction? Nathan went to David and was telling David, oh, there was a man that had a sheep and another king that had 1,000 sheep. He was trying to paint a scenario to David, saying, oh, this and that. David was a guilty one, but then he was just presenting it nicely. And at the end of the day, David said, if that man is in my kingdom, he must die. Why would he go and take the only sheep that a poor man had? Blah, blah, blah. Nathan said, Your Excellency, you are the man. What was David's response? The Bible says he went on his face. For 7 days, he did not eat, he did not drink, he did not bathe. He was on his face. He was pleading with God, because another word came through Prophet Nathan that for this that he had done, the child that Bathsheba had for him was going to die. So he started to fast and pray, God, forgive me for my sin, and please spare this child. For 7 days, He did not. When the child eventually died, the people in the house were afraid to go to the king. They said, when this child, the prophecy came that God was going to, this child was going to die. The king did not eat, did not leave one position for 7 days. Is it we tell him that the child is dead? Ah, that one, we don't know what he will do. Maybe he will kill himself. And then David saw the way they were talking in pockets, saw the way they were talking. He said, the way these people are moving, this child has died. The Bible says he now got up, went to wash himself, eat, and the child has died. So there's nothing more to do. But what am I trying to point out? His response. This was the difference between Saul and David. Whenever Saul was rebuked, he had an explanation to give. He had something to say to defend himself. Some of us are like that. There is nothing, as far as we are concerned, there's nothing wrong that we have done. When they are trying to point out something, we know how to play defense counsel so well. How does your partner solve problems? They fall into like the Bible has said, say, my little children, do not sin. But if you sin, that's why I asked my partner, in the course of this relationship, I'm not supposed to do this, but it can happen. What if I presented a what if scenario and he gave me a what if answer? I said, now my mistake was that I did not pay attention to that. Yes, the answer threw me off balance, like, why would this person have such a disposition? But then I still continued in the relationship with that person. And if certain things had not happened, I probably would have married that person. And it is after marriage I would have discovered a lot of very, very unpleasant things, a lot of mess I would have entered. What am I trying to say? Let's learn to pay attention to certain things in our relationships. Let me run over them as I round up. The mistakes I talked about today are things do not pay attention to while we are in relationships. I talked about number one, how your partner treats other people. Your partner cannot be treating only you nicely and treating every other person like shit. No. Treating every other person like trash. Especially like I said, people, they are subordinates. I will never forget that thing my husband said. He said, you really want to know a person, watch how they treat their subordinates, not their superiors. They will behave well to their superiors because their superiors have of them. Their superiors can make them lose their job. Their superiors, there's something at stake, so they are bound to behave well. But to their subordinates, people that they have power over, how? That's even another mistake that we make. We don't know, as in, we don't pay attention to how our partners use their positions of power, of influence, and all of that. We don't pay attention to these things, how they treat other people. They treat only you nicely, and you are thinking you are special. I've said it, you're not special. You are new. And very soon you become old. You will join the list of the people that they treat badly. So pay attention to how they treat other people and not just you, how they treat their parents. You're with your partner, the parents, maybe they are calling and they are angry. This my mom self. Why is she calling me? Da, 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 da. They always speak negatively about their family. Pay attention. If they are treating their family, blood relations like that,